All right, Ken, I've got in our previous conversations, I've had a lot of, gained a lot of respect for your answers and the things that you've told me about in regard to money. Where did you ever get started in learning about what real money is?
Well, it started when I learned about what fake money is.
Oh?
Yeah, in 1977 I was working for a bank, and I was a cost accountant, and I bought and sold Fed funds. I did wire transfers, correspondent bank reconciliation, and I was the technical guy, one of the technical guys that actually made entries in the bank system. In fact, there were 2 entries in our new operating system that had no audit trail, and I was one of the very few people who was authorized to ever make those entries. But anyway, one day a loan officer came to me with a loan. He was in a big hurry, he had to leave, and he asked me if I would make the journal entry for him. And I said, sure, I would. Now, I had heard that the Federal Reserve was a fraud, but I didn't put much stock in it, okay?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, a lot of people don't.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I made the entry, and it was really amazing to me because while I made a debit entry, which is an asset for the bank, to loans receivable, and a credit entry to checking accounts payable, which is a liability, they were identical amounts. What I had done is taken 0 and split it into its positive and negative factors. There was no money. It was all made out of thin air. And later that day, I had to buy some Fed funds in order to meet our reserve requirement for the loans that were outstanding that day. And that's how it works. And there was no money.
You're making something out of nothing.
Exactly.
It's all on a register or something.
Well, here it was. It had just slapped me in the face. And I knew what I had been hearing was true. I got interested in gold and silver, and in '79...
What's gold and silver? Is that a cure for this particular type of problem, or what?
Well, actually, historically...
See, we've jumped from that little zero paper money, and now we're going to gold all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Where's the jump? Make sure that there's no disconnect there when we're talking about this.
I had also heard that because gold is rare and durable and easily used for other things and transportable and easy to verify its purity and its weight.
Takes work to get it.
It takes work to get it. That's why it's rare.
Which gives it a work value.
That's right.
Okay.
That people have been using it through the centuries as money. Now, other things have been used as money that meet those requirements, but mostly those were local things like the great big stones in the Isle of Yap. Okay, well, they're kind of hard to transport and pay something on the other side of the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
But gold's transportable. In fact, Spanish galleons transported a whole lot of gold back from the New World to Spain. In fact, they transported so much gold that it was inflationary because they didn't get the gold through work. They got it through theft.
Theft.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anytime you flood a market with a currency, whether it's gold or paper or anything, you're going to have inflation.
So even gold can be, is that how you hear about different entities dumping gold on the market?
Yes.
And then you see the price goes down.
That's right.
Okay.
Because if it comes too fast, the market can't absorb it. Okay. But normally what happens is some guy out in the Yukon or something like that is digging in a stream, shovelful after shovelful into a sluice or something like that, and he pulls the gold out, and he spends weeks, months, even years doing this, and then he comes back into town with his gold that he's picked up. It took a lot of work.
Yeah.
Okay, and what happens is we produce. I mean, if you're a worker, you're producing something. And I know that we probably don't want to get into philosophy too much, but one of the definitions of maturity is that you produce more than you consume. Okay? And if you're producing more than you consume, that means you have an excess to trade with.
A profit, so to speak.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And it could be anything that's more than what you need to survive. Well, the guy out in the gold fields brings back gold that he didn't need to survive, and he wants to trade that for something. Over the years, over history, people have found that gold makes a good trading medium. And in fact, the Byzantine Empire had a gold coin they called the bezant. It had 86 grains of gold in it. It was undebased for 800 years.
How big is
an ounce of gold is 480 grains.
Okay.
Okay. And this gold bezant had only 86 grains. It was undebased for 800 years, and they have found that bezant in ruins, archaeological ruins, almost all over the planet. It's just amazing because people knew and trusted its value.
Back in the Byzantine
Empire.
Empire.
That's right. So there's history there on our side, whereas whenever we've gone to paper currency, Genghis Khan had paper currency. It was legal tender.
Mm-hmm.
You had to use it under penalty of death if you didn't use it. But eventually it became unwieldy and crashed.
It's interesting that Genghis Khan ran an army on paper currency.
He sure did.
Something like, does that ever happen in history before?
Before that?
I'm just thinking after, like now.
Now we're doing it.
Yeah, we're running into trillions, running armies.
It's interesting. These concepts of banking, though, are just as ancient as we know, because even they have found banking agreements written in cuneiform.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I've seen them.
So
I've held them in my hand.
Yeah, so
clay
these are
tablets.
just banking concepts are fantastically old, and usurping the trust of people is fantastically old too.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when the most modern example we have is in like the 1200s or something like that, when goldsmiths typically had to store their gold in a safe place to keep it from thieves, and they built vaults. Well, some of their well-to-do friends would bring their own gold and ask the goldsmiths to store it in the vault for them, and the goldsmith would give them a receipt.
Mm-hmm.
People found they could trade these receipts instead of going and getting the gold, and it was very convenient, much more convenient. If you have a piece of paper that says 100 ounces of gold on it, you can fold that and put that in your wallet.
Mm-hmm.
If you have 100 ounces of gold, that's a 7-pound lump of gold.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little harder to carry around.
Tell me, how fancy were these receipts that you're talking about?
Actually, at first they weren't fancy at all.
No.
But then the counterfeiters came in.
That's what I'm talking.
So they had to start getting fancier and fancier, so the counterfeiters had a harder and harder time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another issue entirely, though.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened, though, is the goldsmiths found out that the people who had these receipts, for the most part, never came and redeemed them and got the gold out. So you're a goldsmith, you're charging 0.25% a year to store somebody's 2,000 ounces of gold,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody ever comes and claims the gold. Well, what happened is some of these goldsmiths got the idea that, well, they could write another gold receipt and didn't have to put gold in there because nobody ever can get it anyway.
Oh, nefarious thought process.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're going to call it what it is. It's theft.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where your partial backing came in. So when you hear something that's 80% gold backing, well, that means for every $1,000 out there were $800 in gold in backing.
Okay, now to keep this all in perspective, we're rolling right along here. When you say 80% backing, that would actually mean that if there was a run on this bank,
20% of the people would not get their money.
Okay, that's all I wanted you to say.
Yep.
That's I understand.
That's exactly what that means.
So everybody understands.
So
yeah, okay.
100% gold backing, or 100% backing.
Everybody gets their gold.
Everybody gets it, whether it's gold, silver, whatever.
Platinum, whatever.
If you have a receipt that says silver on it and you go get it, you get it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Right.
Less any service charges, which you've agreed to.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so there's no issue there, okay?
Right.
All right. So what happened is the goldsmiths realized that, wow, I can spend this money, and I've created money out of thin air.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were really smart. I didn't say this is good, I just said it's smart.
Mm-hmm.
And they found out they could take this money that they've created out of thin air and lend it to somebody who would then pay them interest in gold.
This is a receipt.
Yeah.
Okay, just giving them a piece of paper.
And they'd lend it to them, but then they had to pay it back with interest in gold or in silver, in kind, okay? So what they're doing now is they're getting interest on money that costs them nothing.
That they don't even really have ultimately.
Right, that's right. Well, it's even wilder now.
That's pretty basic theft, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
But it gets worse.
Yeah, okay. It gets worse.
It could get worse.
Okay.
Yeah, if it could, right?
All right.
It has. Because the way money is defined, when you sign a credit card agreement
Mm-hmm.
or a mortgage or any paper that is an IOU,
Buy your car.
you have created money in that moment. I'll give you an example. If I do something for you,
Mm-hmm.
and you say to me, Ken, I don't have any of the Federal Reserve notes cash, will you take an IOU from me? And I know you're a reasonable guy, and you're going to make good on it. I say, sure, I'll take an IOU from you. And you give me an IOU. Now, at that moment, I still haven't been paid,
Mm-hmm.
but I have paper that I consider to be good. Now,
My good faith.
that's right.
Okay.
Now, I could maybe go down the street to a store, and I want to buy something. Oh, but I don't have any cash either. But I have this IOU from Greg.
Mhm.
And I say to the storekeeper, will you take this IOU?
For Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And well, he knows you. He
Mhm.
says, oh, sure, IOU from Greg, I'd be glad to take that.
Mhm.
So what you've done is you've created a currency that someday you'll have to redeem.
Yeah.
Okay?
Responsibility.
But what if it just keeps circulating and circulating and nobody ever brings it to you for redemption?
What happens?